Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 193. I am so thrilled to have with us today an amazing physician who turned her life around using holistic medicine and has gone on to help thousands and thousands of women to transform their lives. Dr. Tasneem Bhatia, I love your name. In fact, I think it's the most beautiful name I've ever had on the show.
You're so sweet.
Thank
you.
I know that you normally go by Dr. Taz. In fact, you've been on some major TV shows like Dr. Oz and The Doctors. I saw your clip on The Doctors, and I just love what you do. It's so easy to watch you and learn from you, and I'm so thrilled they're here today to teach our listeners about how they can achieve better health. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'd love for you to start by sharing your story because you have an amazing story.
Sure. I mean, I think, and I'm sorry for my voice, I also am recovering from the legendary virus going around all over the place. But anyhow, I jumped into this field very unexpectedly. So my story is one of just a fortunate accident is always how I describe it. But I'm a physician. I, did what all physicians do. I went through medical school and residency and came out, working in pediatrics and emergency medicine, and quite honestly loved what I did, but did not realize in the process that I was getting sick myself. And the combination of, too many Diet Cokes, maybe too many drinks in general, eating junky food and fast food and thinking that popcorn was a healthy, low-fat, low-calorie meal, along with like night shifts and all the other stressors that come with med school and residency and then ER work, slowly started to add up. And as I got sicker, my family started to notice they noticed more the cosmetic signs of hair loss and, acne and all these things that I had never had before in my life. And I noticed more the internal things of just not feeling good and not feeling like myself and, super fatigued, achy joints, not wanting to go out, being embarrassed to get dressed, all of those things that a lot of us will go through when something's going on, but still was not in a position or place for whatever reason to connect that I needed to do something about my health. So it was my husband-to-be, who at the time we were dating, who was just like, look, I think something's wrong. You need to see lots of doctors, who, really encouraged me to start investigating and digging into what's happening. And as I did, I was just not getting any answers. And I was going to some of the top people around the country and really just not getting anywhere, not getting any permanent solutions. And so finally, I realized I really just needed to take this into my own hand. And I think it was one particular incident when I was prescribed a medication that one of the side effects of the medication was that it would lower blood pressure. And in taking it, my blood pressure, which was already low, lowered even further. And I almost passed out and wrecked my car. I could have hurt somebody else or hurt myself.
Oh my gosh.
I realized I really have to own this, and I really have to figure it out. And I really have to become, an advocate for myself and connected back to my own health. So I started just looking for stuff to study, quite honestly. I mean, I knew how to study. I could do that well. So I went back and started studying, holistic medicine and nutrition. And from there, I got interested in Chinese medicine and then got interested in Ayurveda and just kept, learning little pieces of the puzzle along the way, enough to get myself better and then to be really smart when people were asking questions or friends had questions. But over the course of time, I finally realized if this was going to be anything more than kind of just helping me and helping family members and close friends, I really needed more formal education in this whole entire field of merging different systems of medicine together, merging together the use of food as medicine and all the wonderful tools that we have at hand to heal our bodies. So I did the fellowship in integrative medicine with Dr. Weil, and then I'm now boarded in integrative medicine as well. And I'm also working on the functional medicine program. Even though I've been in practice 9 or 10 years, I still feel like we can always learn something new. So in 2009, and feel free to stop me. This is like just
Oh, I love
a
it. I love it. What I,
big
well,
journey,
no,
but
please continue.
so anyhow, it was my husband who's always encouraged so much of everything, had been observing that I've been studying. I finally did this fellowship. He graduated from dental school, and it was roughly 2008. And he looks at me and he's like, you've been studying this stuff for a while. When are you going to do something with it? And he's the one who he was starting his dental practice. We had a 6-month-old, and he's like, look, let's find a space. I'll start my practice. You work in the back of the practice. You can work for a couple of days a week. It's no big deal. You don't have to worry about the stress of overhead or any of the other business type stresses that come with owning a practice, because I'll worry about that. You just do this because you love it and you can help so many people. So we closed on a space, and literally the next day I found out I was pregnant again. And keep in mind, I
Ah,
already had a 6-month-old. And so I remember sitting there on the stairs just sobbing. I'm like, I can't do anything. I'm pregnant again. I just lost all my weight too, all of that. And so he was so sweet. He's like, it's okay. We're going to make this work. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Don't worry about it. And so sure enough, it began a crazy journey for the two of us, where we opened our practices. Mine was tiny. His was relatively small as well. We both maintained our outside jobs. We had 2 kids, under 2 years of age. And it was madness. And it was madness for a couple of years. But what I thought would be tiny and small and be limited to just maybe seeing patients once or twice a week, maybe a couple of patients a week, nothing big, just blew up in my face. And I'll never forget, my husband's face when he walked in to his practice one day, and I had taken over all the chairs. I was doing acupuncture and all the dental chairs. And then he was saying, he was, to get even in, he was tripping over people. He goes, there were people sitting on the floor. There were people outside, sitting around waiting, for whatever. And he's like, okay, this is ridiculous. This is getting out of control. You've obviously grown. So, we both moved. We became separate, independent spots, basically. And it just became a journey of me then determined to grow and scale and build the practice to change medicine and to get this out there so that everybody really gets connected back to themselves and can understand how to take care of themselves and doesn't get the runaround that we get today in modern medicine. So my dream was, and it keeps changing, but my initial dream was, I'm going to grow and have multiple practices. And I've grown my team. It was me by myself with one employee, and now I think we're close to 30 or 40 at this time with eight or nine providers. So we have 2 locations, and we're already planning our third. So it's just been an incredible gift and journey for people believing in us and helping us grow, and really taking it now in terms of just, hey, I'm going to have a practice, to, hey, I'm on a mission. And I'm really on a mission, to change medicine. And I'm on a mission in particular to help women and children and connect them back to who they are, so that we can really build the next society to be stronger and better than ever.
oh, I love the image of your practice with your holistic practice just blowing up, taking over all the chairs, taking over the hallways. It's a true testament to the need for holistic medicine, the need for real results. And allopathic medicine has its place, but we've been marketed to that MDs with pharmaceutical drugs is the only answer. And people are waking up and going, "Hey, my hair's falling out. Hey, I have these weird hot flashes and I'm only in my 40s. Hey, I don't have any energy. Hey, I keep having chronic infections." And the doctor just wants to give them drug after drug with side effect after side effect. So eventually we turn away from that system that's not serving us, and we look for you. And so many people found you, and it's such a true testament to the strength of holistic medicine, to coming back to nature. I just love what you're doing. I also love how supportive your husband is. I think that we can all learn from that when choosing a partner in life, be it a business partner
Totally.
or a friend or a husband or a boyfriend. When we choose a partner, we need to look for those qualities that they will stand beside us and lift us up and not compete with us. And I love that your husband was so supportive of you, because look how many people you've gone on to help because of that.
Yeah, and it's something we may need to tell him to his face one day. I don't think he realizes what his empowerment of me has done. But
Mm.
I will tell you, I know how lucky I am, but it also equally scares me for my daughter and seeing the journey my patients go through and so many other women I know go through when they choose that wrong partner,
Mm-hmm.
and how your entire life can derail. You can take the most talented, gifted person, but if they're matched up with somebody who can't recognize that or can't support it or can't help it grow, then that person becomes very much a shadow version of themselves. So that is something, honestly, it sounds as crazy as this is going to sound, what's next coming out of my mouth. But when we don't understand ourselves, when we don't connect the dots of who we are, and that's every aspect of ourselves, from our chemistry to our emotions to the foods we choose to eat and the people we choose to be around and the work we choose to do, when we can't connect those dots and understand who we are, that's when we make wrong decisions. That's when we make wrong choices, you know? So, under this whole concept of finding yourself, owning yourself, finding your type, and then proceeding to make decisions is so critical, because I've watched and sat with woman after woman, patient after patient, hearing their stories and, you know, knowing in my heart why things happened to them the way they did, but having to then relay that to them when my deepest wish is really that they never needed me to begin with. They could have put these pieces together and felt good and felt strong, because I'm telling you, when you don't feel good, you're going to choose the wrong guy. When you're sleepless and sleep deprived, you're going to make the wrong choice. I mean, every single thing leads to the next, and it's so critical for us to own the responsibility to take care of ourselves, to really be able to have the empowered life that we're all meant to have.
Mm-hmm. And when we know ourselves, we will attract that equal. We will attract that partner that it's not like we're a half and we're looking for another half. We're a whole, and this other whole becomes like a Vesica Pisces and becomes part of us, but we're still ourselves. You know, it's when we're kind of like confused as to who we are, what our mission is in life, or we think we need someone. That's when we start attracting just anyone, right? Instead of the
Exactly.
perfect partner. I love Carl Jung, how he talks about how we marry our unconscious mind and project onto them all of our unconscious, unresolved material. And so basically, by working on ourselves and cleaning up and resolving our own material or unconscious material, we then can create a clean lens that we can see our partner through, instead of projecting onto them all of our crap. So I love that you have that with your partner, because you obviously had to do the work to get there, and you are now helping so many women. And I'm really excited to also talk about your book, Superwoman Rx. So I definitely want to talk about
Yes.
that. But going back to your education, many years you had to spend to become an MD. When you, in your 20s, were first uncovering all the holistic medicine that was helping you, did you get angry that all the money you spent on your MD education didn't cover this?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a little bit comical, quite honestly. We study so much in med school. There's a lot of material to cover, but we get, I think, maybe an hour on nutrition at the most. And we most certainly don't even touch the other systems of medicine that exist today, have existed far before conventional medicine. So, yes, it angers me. It also continues to anger me because, I still don't think there's a lot of progress. I mean, there's a little bit. I hear of a lot of residency programs now. They have some integrative medicine rotations and things like that. But in med school, your formative years where you have the opportunity to digest this information, there's still not that training that's present yet. So, yes, it's super frustrating.
Well, I love that you're here to speak up and let people know that there are doctors like yourself who are going to include so many more tools in your tool belt to help them. What led you to write your book, Superwoman Rx?
There were so many different reasons for writing this book. So, some of it just came out of nowhere. Now, you realize in practice, I have a very strong practice and a lot of female patients. And one of the comments I kept hearing over and over again, that my daughter, who now is 10, kept hearing too, is like, "Oh my God, I don't get it. How do you do everything you do? You must be some kind of superwoman. That's the only way," as if I had some magical power, some magical ability that nobody else had. And so, I very much feel passionately about, helping women, achieve kind of what they want to achieve and be who they're meant to be. And when I was sitting back trying to think of how do you help women get it? How do you help them understand this message? It was my sweet daughter who's like, Mom, you should write a book called The Superwoman Rx. She's like, everyone calls you a superwoman. Maybe you need to tell them what you're doing. So she was really cute about it. So that's how the title was born. And then as I sat back and thought about it and realized over the years that there were patterns that my patients were falling into. And some of those patterns were nutritional, some of them were hormonal, some of them were emotional, some of them were based in Ayurvedic or Chinese medicine. But as we started lining out all the patterns and matching them up, they fit kind of into 5 distinct silos or into 5 distinct patterns. And so I was like, how amazing would it be if we can help women identify what their type is, and then from that information, learn how to eat, how to live, what best supplements are there for them, how really they should be exercising. Because right now we're subject to like what I call like the 15-second news cycle, where suddenly like vegan diets were huge, then paleo diets were huge before that, then it was Whole30, before that it was the ketogenic diet. I mean, so we're victims of this sort of bombardment of information, but still not really clear on how to put this information together and how to put the pieces of the puzzle together completely.
Yeah, there's so much confusion. That's actually one of the most common things I hear from my listeners, is that they're listening to these interviews to clear up the confusion.
Yes.
Because some doctors say everyone should be on cholesterol medication, and then a bunch of the doctors say throw out your cholesterol medication, and some people say fat's good, and the other people say fat's bad, and we obviously want to come to the science, but even studies can be manipulated to get the result that they're looking for. It's we have to make sure that it's not fuzzy science. So what's the truth? What truths have you uncovered in your many years of practice?
Uh, what truths? You mean, maybe clarify that question for me just a little
What
bit.
what like health truths, like you know that eating healthy whole fats is necessary, or organic actually really does make a difference, or vaccines should be avoided. Like, what are some ultimate truths in your practice have you observed?
I think one of the most fundamental ones is you can't, no matter how much you work on your health, until you get the food component of your health right, everything else I feel like counteracts. I know, people that are, great exercisers, great meditators, great at lots of different things, yogis. But if you can't get the food part right, I almost feel like all of those other things sort of cancel out. So that's one truth, that food is everything, food matters. You have to treat food like medicine, and you have to understand the food you need and where it's coming from and how it's sourced. I think a second one, fundamental truth that I've seen over and over again, is that it's critical for women to understand their hormone levels, understand where they are, what's happening with them every 6 months or so. I think so many people don't check them, or are told by their, conventional physicians that there's no point checking them. I mean, nothing could be further from the truth. We need to know our numbers, and we need to know where they are, so when they shift, as we shift, we know what direction we're shifting in. So I think that's another kind of fundamental truth. And then, unfortunately, the third truth is that cancer is ultimately not a genetic disease, it is an environmental disease. And until we understand that, we're never going to solve the whole cancer equation, because too many people are fixated on what their gene markers are and not necessarily fixated on the fact that it's ultimately environmental. And we have to work hard on all the principles of managing our environment to decrease the environmental burden on our body. So everything from, again, eating right, but detoxification, managing stress and managing our hormones, managing inflammation. All of those are cumulative and additive when it comes to the conversation about cancer, which is a $1 billion industry currently today, in our country. So that's another one. When it comes to children's health, there are about 1 million truths there, that some of which I'm not ready to jump into right away. That might be the next book, but anyhow, but some of which, that really need more digging in. Like, number one, when it comes to our kids, they're connected to us. You can't separate a woman and a child. Those health issues often mimic each other. So the health of a mother is going to be reflected in the health of a child, and vice versa. And I think, secondly, something is happening to our children that I haven't 100% put my finger on yet, but more and more in practice, just the rates of everything: dyslexia, ADHD, autism, sensory processing disorder, mood disorders, this whole game that we're seeing, something's happening to them. And whether it's the environmental assault on their guts or the way they're being managed, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I know something is happening to our children, and it's concerning. And it's also reflected to a certain extent in what's happening with our children's hormones, everything from precocious puberty to gender identification and everything else. So that's a whole piece to wrestle with also. I mean, I could go on forever. I mean, I think that,
Those are some
yeah,
great points, and I know
yeah,
environmental toxins play a huge role in disrupting hormones like obesogens, right? And
yep,
all of the
yep,
plastics that are in our food are estrogen mimickers. And so, of course, we've got these girls, 9-year-old girls getting their period,
yep.
13-year-old girls looking like they're 17, and wanting to act like it. And they just, mentally and emotionally, they're not there, but they're wanting to be there. And of course, now, the mainstream, you look at the magazines and the ads and everything, and it's psychologically damaging because these little girls are growing up so fast. There's sex in all the media, and
Mm-hmm.
kids aren't allowed to just be kids. And so, yeah,
Absolutely.
you've got this psychological component, and you've got this environmental pollution component. And then food, we've got GMO, which is known to disrupt gut health. And so you're seeing that as well with the gut health. So, and I love what you said, that the mother and the child is connected, and that the health issues of the mother and the child will reflect each other. I saw that in my childhood too. When my mom was sick, I was sick. When my mom got better, I got better. It was very interesting. Well, of course, because the mom usually is the one who is dictating the foods and the activities and the emotional health of the household.
Right. And I don't think we pay enough attention or stress that enough to moms to, and also give them enough structure and support to be able to understand how these concepts are intertwined and interlinked.
What kind of structure or support could a mom who's listening begin to implement that would help them with this?
I mean, I think there's so many different tools. I think, first of all, is getting food right for herself and for her family, understanding what her family's particular needs are. I think understanding the emotional landscape and how children feed off our emotions and we feed off theirs. And so, whatever tools or regulation you can do for yourself, it's probably going to work for your child too. And I think just again, spending some time, connecting the dots between the things you're doing and how they may impact your child and how what your child is doing may impact you. So you create a family structure where everybody's well taken care of, including yourself. I think so many moms don't understand that when they're not well taken care of, then they often don't do the best job they can in taking care of their children.
Absolutely. Put on the oxygen mask first. We all
Yes,
hear it. We just need to
yes.
do it and not feel guilty about it. Now, you reversed your hair loss, and that is a major issue for a lot of women. What led to the hair loss? Was it a mineral deficiency? Was it stress, a hormone issue? And how can women reverse their hair loss?
So my story in particular was scary, very simple, quite honestly. It was, I didn't know, but essentially I needed to be gluten free because the gluten was affecting my thyroid, and my thyroid in turn was affecting my other hormones. And then it was triggering the stress, in addition to all that, was triggering a high androgen output, which was causing my hair loss. So that was my story. Hair loss comes in different shapes and forms and sizes, so it's hard to be super general about it. But for many women, what they need to understand is hair loss is either nutritional, and those are usually being low in either the B vitamins or iron, protein, or fat. Hair loss can be hormonal, so that's being high in androgens or low in thyroid or not having the right estrogen progesterone balance on board. It can be stress induced because stress will basically cut off blood flow to the scalp or cut off circulation, and it will raise your stress hormones, which will raise androgen levels. And then last but not least, it can be care of the hair, like how you take care of the hair, how you're, styling your hair, what products you're using, all of those type of things. So those are the kind of the four main things to think about hair loss. But in terms of growing your hair back, I mean, you have to almost tackle each of those to get hair back. I always tell my patients that you have to manage each of those four categories. I just released my patented formula, Lush Locks is what we're calling it, but it's a blend that I've been using for a while and finally put together for everybody else. But it's, methylated B vitamins along with a little bit of iron, some magnesium, and then it has 2 herbs, one from the world of Ayurveda, amla, which has been known to help with hair loss and promote hormone health in general, and then fo tea, which is a Chinese herb that also helps with hair loss too. So again, it's almost like a multifactorial approach, um, but again, a good doctor can get to the bottom of it and help dig into all those aspects.
I love that it's methylated B vitamins. That's such a huge problem these days, and not many supplements are methylated. So I'm glad that your Luscious Locks includes something that everyone can utilize. That's really exciting. So now that Luscious Locks is on your website, drtaz.com.
Yes, it is. It is there.
All right, great. Let's talk about your book, Superwoman Rx. I went to your website, I checked it out, and there's a quiz, and the quiz is actually a lot of fun. And I am a boss lady.
You are.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
So tell us about these different personalities and how you came up with this.
Yeah, so basically what I did, so there are 5 main power types. There is the gypsy girl, there's the boss lady, which you are, there's the savvy chick, which I am, an earth mama, and a nightingale. And then each type is basically created in a very distinct way. I took common Ayurvedic diagnosis, merged it with the most. So for each type, like there's an Ayurvedic diagnosis, a Chinese medical diagnosis, a nutritional diagnosis, a hormone pattern, and basically took all that information and merged it together. So, for example, a lot of my gypsy girls, for example, are the Vata Ayurvedic type. Well, you take that with the kidney meridian, which was their most common Chinese meridian deficiency, and each of those dictates certain personality traits. For example, the Vadas typically are air people, so they're a bit flighty. They're often in a different space. They have a tendency towards anxiety and ADHD, which is what we were seeing in practice. And then there were certain lab values that went with that as well. So it was just really a way, again, because I've been using this methodology in the practice over and over and over again. So it was a way to take that methodology, turn it into different power types, and then be able to prescribe or have a prescriptive plan for all these different types of women.
And let's share some results. Do you have some like stories of success that you can share in terms of using these power types in terms of helping someone to navigate their treatment, their plan?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were already, the book launched September 12th, and we're already getting so many stories. I've gotten stories of people, for example, let's talk about the boss ladies. Let's talk about you. They are pitta and spleen meridian are kind of, I'm sorry, not spleen, but liver. They are pitta and liver meridian are kind of their 2 Eastern diagnoses. And with that, they're typically commanders, directors, and go-getters. But when they do too much of that, it affects their gut, and that eventually will affect their thyroid, and then affect everything from weight and hair and all the different things that we know about the thyroid. So I've already gotten such a warm response from people that are like, oh my gosh, I identified as a boss lady, and they may have had like an autoimmune disease like lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, or they may have even had like PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And then they follow through on this plan for the boss ladies, which a lot of it is doing good gut work and then replenishing specific nutrients along with stress management in different ways. And they would find that they would very easily lose weight, and over time their hormone levels were shifting, and even for the folks with PCOS, suddenly like a month or so later they're getting their periods again. So just amazing stories across the board, and people, the biggest thing people are saying or sending back to me is just like, oh my gosh, I understand myself, I get it now, and now I know like this is how I need to eat or live my life, etc.
Cool. Can you teach us something from the book? Maybe some tools or tips or tricks that we can take away?
Tips or tricks that everybody out there could take away. I mean, the book is chock full of stuff. Let me just say that there is everything in the book. From, I think there are over 75 recipes. There are kind of DIY recipes for making your own cleansers and shampoos and moisturizers and stuff like that. There's so much there. But if I had to do some quick hacks and tips and tricks, some of them include, and again, they differ by type, but some of them include, for example, always set 2 to 3 hours a week for your own personal self-care. And that could be anything that you love to do. And each type might like different things, but It has to be something where you're being nurtured. So whether it's a massage or doing acupuncture or doing yoga, to me, that's a minimum requirement for women, because as women, whether we like it or not, we always take on multiple roles. We, in some ways, are forced to, in some ways, we choose it. So to be able to do that, and we thrive doing that, we have to nurture ourselves. So 2 to 3 hours a week of self care. I would say almost all the types needed B vitamins. The B vitamins are essential, the methylated Bs in particular, because they are the basis for a lot of hormones, for your neurotransmitters, all of those to function effectively. So getting the right amount of B vitamins is critical. Many of the types also needed magnesium to help with sleep. I think many women suffer from sleep disturbances. My gypsy girls in particular were the most prone to that. And that's, again, we have either too much on our mind, or we think we're night owls, or we have imbalances that allow us to stay up late. But taking a little bit of magnesium every night is something that absolutely can help with sleep. I think the whole world of essential oils, I think that's a fascinating place for women to go. It's an easy, non-toxic, non-invasive way to manage everything from stress to coughs and colds, to help us with our skincare and our hair care. So getting and diving into the world of essential oils, which we talk a lot about in the book, I think is something that's super beneficial as well.
Absolutely, because we can replace all those. I love that you have recipes for skincare, because
Yes.
there's so many toxins in skincare products. And I love that you teach that we can make our own, cleansers and exfoliants and masks. And I saw that video that you did on the doctors, where you taught how to do a mask that will get rid of the double chin.
Yes, that was so
And
fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is fun. And the doctor said it smelt good,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's all natural ingredients that are in our kitchen already. Um, but we can do so much of our own. We can make, and that probably save a lot of money, making our own skincare products, and we know everything that's going into it, so we're avoiding those chemicals that
Mm-hmm.
get that. It's just because you put it on your skin doesn't mean it stays there. It soaks into the bloodstream, and so if you look on the back of your whatever moisturizer or toner, whatever you're using, and you see all these ingredients you can't recognize, those are ingredients your body can't recognize either. They're man-made chemicals, and we need to eliminate, or at least significantly decrease, the man-made chemicals that are floating in our bloodstream and bathing all of the cells in our body, especially because, like you said, cancer is an environmental issue. It's the environmental toxins, which can come from our cleaners. It could be in our house, our cleaners, what's off-gassing in our carpets, and our cosmetics, something that we think is benign, like shampoo and conditioner, can have cancer-causing agents. And so I love that you address that. And then essential oils, which is the strongest, most potent form of herbal medicine, can be used, only a few drops needed, to replace perfumes. And also they have so many therapeutic effects. So I love that you bring that up. What's a good recipe? Do you want to share a recipe from your book, either for skincare, or maybe something delicious and cleansing to eat?
Oh my gosh, this book is chock full of recipes. How about this one? This is what I call the thyroid trail mix. So this is a trail mix that I've picked the ingredients in particular to help women support their thyroid. It's mixed. Let's go through some of the ingredients. For example, a cup of roasted unsalted Brazil nuts, 1 cup of almonds, half a cup of dark chocolate chips, 1 cup of any gluten-free, sugar-free cereal, and then maybe about 2 teaspoons of pink salt and 1 to 2 teaspoons of dark honey. And each of these ingredients are pre-thought out. But the Brazil nuts, for example, have a lot of selenium in them. Almonds have a lot of omega-3s. Dark chocolate chips have magnesium. And then we know dark honey can boost the immune system. And then the pink or iodized salt often is helpful with iodine. But all of this comes together to help make a really quick, easy to make snack that you can carry with you anywhere you're going and munch on throughout the day to hold your hunger and prevent you from having huge waves in blood sugar. So that's a fun and easy one. Another one that we have in here is something called chia chocolates. And so the kids think it's a dessert, but it's actually breakfast, and it's made with nut butter and chia seeds and a couple of dark chocolate chips, and we roll it in oats, and they love it. It looks like truffles, but it's actually just a protein bomb, and they absolutely love that. I have a ton of fun skincare recipes in here, and they're different things for different types. So, if you really want the individualized recipes, I would encourage people to grab the book. But I mean, simple little things. For example, using, raw apple cider vinegar to tone your face and to help clear acne, using lemon juice as well, mixing together yogurt and a little bit of honey together to make a great cleansing mask and toning mask at the same time. Um, a lot of times doing moisturizers, we'll mix together like a spoon or so of olive oil or coconut oil, or even jojoba oil. And again, I've customized the oils to the types, and then taking that and mixing it with a little bit of essential oil to help cleanse the face better. You can do the exact same thing for hair, but to that same mixture, turn around and add coconut milk or Castile soap, and you have a shampoo instead. So really, really easy, simple things to do, that you can do and store, and then turn some into both cleansers, moisturizers, and shampoos all at once. So just easy, fun recipes.
Fun. It does sound like a lot of fun. I think especially moms with girls, like young girls. I remember when I was a kid, I loved making masks. My best friend and I would get oats and other ingredients and make our own masks, and it's so much fun. And so you can include the family. I'd love to know, writing a book is a process, and every
Hmm.
author walks away transformed. Sometimes authors feel as though they themselves got the most out of their book than anyone who would ever read it. What lessons did you learn while writing your book, or how did it transform you?
Wow. So this was painful. I gotta say, and that's the only word I can come up with. This was incredibly painful for me. And I think it was so hard because I spent so many years studying all these different systems of medicine and all these different modalities, and then so many years working with patients. But pulling it out of my head was way harder than I thought it was going to be. And trying to relate this concept of power types and the importance of finding your power type and then understanding what your power plan should be, um, was not simple. It's not like, hey, get healthy in 30 days or eat right for your type or something like that. It's much deeper than that. But I'm so proud of this book, quite honestly. This to me is the book. I'm sure every author has the book that is like their child, the most heartfelt, the most, important to them. My prayer and hope for this book is that it is a guidebook for women for years to come, because as I state clearly in the book, we can be one type today, but we could be a different type tomorrow, and our health needs and our food needs and everything else we do will shift and change. But this is a place you return to keep checking in with yourself and understanding where you are in that journey of life and what it is that you're missing. I mean, we have great check-in tools in here. There's something called a mojo meter that forces you to account for how you're feeling about yourself, and maybe just realizing that, hey, you're not as great as you think you are, because your classic visit to the regular doctor is like, you're fine, everything's okay. And okay is not good enough. Being okay doesn't allow you to be a superwoman. Being okay allows you to get by. But the goal for many of us, our heartfelt goal, is to do a whole lot to contribute to society in big, grand ways, whether they're by creating this amazing family or neighborhood or community group or running for office or running a business or having a corporate job, whatever it is. Most of us, want to look, feel, and be amazing, but we can't do it without the information in hand. And most of the time we're told we're okay or everything's just fine. And I don't know about you, being okay and being just fine doesn't cut it. So this was tough. It was tough to write, but it is, out of the books I've written so far, it's one of the books I'm the most proud of, and one that I'm hopeful will truly change women's lives everywhere. Maybe somebody I can never see or never meet face to face or in person, but it'll resonate with her and motivate her to make those changes so she lives the best life that she was meant to live.
I love it. And I love that you addressed that going to a traditional, or, an MD doctor with no holistic medicine background. The lab numbers for the parameters of what's normal are significantly different than a holistic doctor or a naturopathic physician. For example, vitamin D levels are completely acceptable if they're between 20 and 50 for an MD, But for a naturopath, they want to see your vitamin D levels at 60 or they think it's too low.
Right.
And so
Exactly.
it's really interesting that when you go to an MD, you might feel really crappy, but all of your blood work to them says you're normal.
Right.
And yet to a holistic doctor, you are not normal. And because we're looking, the parameters that we're looking at are excellence versus average. And we don't
Correct.
want to be average because the average person gets cancer. The average person is on multiple medications. The average person is, 70% of the adult population is on at least one prescription medication. So I don't want to be average. I don't want to be on, any medication. And I think that we need to put our foot down and say, I want to get my health back to the point where I don't need any medication because that is health. Health is the not needing to be on meds, and health is not having all these symptoms. And so I love that you address that, and I love that your book is going to help women to empower them. In the creation of neurolinguistic programming, back in the 60s and 70s, the creators looked around and said, it's really weird in America. In America, we strive for excellence. We always strive for excellence, and yet in the emotional and mental health care system, you're either normal or abnormal. And there was no striving for excellence, and that's what they set out to do in neurolinguistic programming, was to create tools that would help people to achieve excellence in a field that wasn't looking to create excellence. And I see that's what you're doing as well. You're looking to help women create excellence in their health when there's a huge industry out there that is kind of driven on waiting for people to get sick to then give them drugs.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're trying to do. So, in fact, it's one of our core values.
Yeah, awesome. Very cool. Well, I'd love to know, diving into, I know that you said it was very hard to pull everything out of your head, and I get that. Do you have a chapter or a section of the book that was really fun to write or that you're even more proud of?
A chapter or section. I thought it was interesting to tell the story of my journey and also the story of women, because I think we're at a really, you know, there's a lot of health information in here, but the real take home message, honestly, here is that you've got to connect your health to your life, because if you don't do that, then we're going to continue to not progress as women. And at a time too, it's an interesting time in history where the role and identity of women is to a certain extent being questioned. I mean, we've had an election that's created a lot of upheaval with how you treat women being partly at the center of it, and then how women vote being a part of it too, and a female woman running for office. We've had this whole LA Hollywood eruption. I mean, I think as women, quite honestly, we still have a long way to go. We have a long way in understanding what it really is that motivates us, and to be quite frank, we have a long way to go in terms of owning our power. And I don't think the majority of women today, as many freedoms as we have and as many liberties as we have, we're still not quite there yet. There is still ingrained and entrenched in us through our history, which is spelled out in the book, of being disempowered. And to a certain extent, we all accept it, and we all play that role in different ways throughout our lives. So we'll really have a shift as women when we can start to identify our patterns and our trends to engage in that behavior. And then we collectively can change ourselves so that we change kind of how men see us and how the world sees us, So I think, to me, that was particularly interesting to understand where we've come from, how much work we have to do, how much our health is so wrapped up in it, because we have to own that component of us, because we are different chemically. Our chemistry is different. We're hormonal. Different things happen to our bodies than happen to men. And that has to be a part of the overall tapestry of what the story of women will be. But it can't be a story of pre-wired, hard set disempowerment, which is a place many of us will react from as we walk through life.
I love it. What are some ways that as individuals we can begin to get pull back the layers and become more clear as to who we are and stand in our own power? Should we meditate? Should we journal? Should we seek counseling? What are some really powerful tools that we should look into?
I mean, I don't think there's one path necessarily, but I think being alone is probably the first requirement in some form or fashion. I think when you're alone and there's stillness, whether that's through meditation or through yoga or through listening to music, or mindfulness practices or journaling or even prayer, you're forced to connect with yourself and you're forced to filter out the noise of everything else. So a consistent practice like that, 5 to 10 minutes a day, helps you connect with back to who you are. I think analyzing your own behaviors, is important, like the motivation for doing different things and understanding where those motivations are coming from and if they're truly in alignment with what your particular purpose is. All of that comes from a lot of deep, deep inner work. Some of that needs to be done with maybe a counselor, but sometimes they project their views onto you. So I almost want women to have a clean slate and to be able to dig deep into themselves and to really understand where their motivation is coming from. For example, do you want to go get that procedure because some boy told you look better if you did X, Y, and Z, or do you want to go get that procedure because you really think you want to get that? Do you want that job? What's the reason you want those jobs? Like really sort of questioning your inner motivation. Like how much are we trying to please somebody else, or how much are we trying to grow our own inner selves, like our own child, or like we grow a plant or something along those lines. So I think that's daily practice. I think that's a mindfulness practice. I think, that's a good, easy place for everybody to start. And then maybe even digging deeper, looking at the patterns that have been passed down to you. Are you repeating the patterns of your ancestors? Are you breaking through those patterns? What did those women do? What are you doing that's different? What are you doing that's similar? I think those are all things we can look at, as we move forward.
I wouldn't have taken that as seriously, what you just said, until I had my child. And
Yep.
I am my mother, and
Yep.
I swore I'd never become my mother, but I catch myself opening my mouth and my mother's words come out of it, and my kid's only 2.5. So uh, clearly I have unconsciously taken on a lot of patterns from my mom, and she probably got them from her mom. And who knows how many generations this is playing out. And so, absolutely, I agree with you that
I mean,
looking.
we're hardwired, and I think we have a responsibility to change our DNA. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff that we're carrying around internally. I mean, this is going off on a tangent completely, but that chemistry can change. Your DNA can change. It's not forever. I mean, I can give you, like you're saying, an example in our own family. Like my mom has her own story. She's an immigrant. She came, I always crack up. I don't know how she did it, but she had an arranged marriage at 18 years of age to my dad, came from a bustling big city in India to Tyler, Texas, which is a small town in Texas, and had all her issues that she dealt with, in making that change. But she was so brilliant, but so insecure at the same time. And somewhere in my growing up, I had a slightly distant dad, somebody who was not very engaged. I was super insecure as a child, and I remember that. And it took me a long time into adulthood to find my voice and to find myself. And then I have my husband, and I've already told you how great, my husband is, and we have this amazing daughter. But I'm seeing the same insecurity and lack of confidence in her. And it's puzzling to me because she didn't cross an ocean. She didn't have an absentee dad. She has every creature of comfort you can imagine, every opportunity you can imagine. And both of us like cheering her on, going rah, rah, rah. But she's got that same thing. So I feel like it's wired in our family's DNA to a certain extent. And part of my gift to her, hopefully, will be to constantly give her tools to undo that, to change it so that she doesn't have to wait, till 30 or 35 to find her voice. Hopefully she can find it by 15 or 16. She doesn't have to wait that long. So again, these are some of the things I'm talking about that I'm seeing and that I think as women we carry with us, and it's our responsibility to change it. We've got to, otherwise we'll always be second fiddle. We'll always be second class, and we'll never have a seat at the tables to create the world and the community the way we all see it. When you talk to women, we kind of all see the world in a very similar way. We're pretty altruistic at heart. We're pretty generous in nature. We might have differences here and there. We all sort of understand that the world's children are our children. I think we're all on the same page there, but that will never manifest if women cannot rise to creating that society in the context of being with men and being with other types of people, you know.
I love it. So we have to do the inner work, especially stop blaming others and stop blaming the world or society. Stop, falling into victim mentality. We need to pull up our pants and get to work and do our own inner work, because it's through our own inner work and our inner healing that is going to make it so that we can stand on our own 2 feet, be empowered, and then change the world.
Correct. You got it. That's the way I see
Yay!
it. That's the way I see it.
Awesome.
So this book is a start. How's that?
I love
It's a
it. I love
start.
it. This is where it all started. That's very cool. Now, these different personalities, you're saying that they all have different needs at different times, and that
Mm-hmm.
we can go through multiple person. I could be the boss lady today, but in a few years I might be the gypsy. Is that what you're saying? That we did different
Exactly.
in different periods of our life, we can take on these different personalities, and these different personalities are a combination of Eastern and Western medicine. Is that my understanding?
Exactly. Eastern and Western medicine. Exactly. Merging everything together.
And so during those times we have different needs. Like the boss lady definitely needs some adrenal support, definitely needs to sleep more and heal her gut, right?
Yes, you got it.
Okay,
Very
great.
good.
And so um with that, I see that there's probably different dietary needs. um I know that there's not one diet that you could tell everyone to take, but do you have some truths around diet that you find that all women respond in a really good way to, if they shift their diet in this specific way or add certain specific foods to their plan?
I mean, I think a universal truth is most people benefit from an anti-inflammatory diet, right? So most people do benefit from, less gluten, less dairy, less sugar, getting in more of those healthy fats, eating at consistent intervals, and then maintaining kind of like a good overnight fast to clear the belly out and to improve the overall digestive process. So most women do absolutely benefit from that. I think that's a general truth. But from that base, we then have all the different types. For example, we've asked that gypsy girls be gluten free, whereas boss ladies need to be dairy free. Savvy chicks need to be both gluten free and dairy free. Like my earth mamas really need to watch yeast and sugar in particular, and my nightingales need a lot of immune enhancing foods. So, but the base or universal truth is probably that most people need to be anti inflammatory, need to watch gluten, dairy, and sugar. And watch their intervals of eating, and that's a good, safe place to start.
Love it. Now you touched on immune. Both you and I have just gotten over a cold.
Yes.
And I know that you know some great tricks for boosting the immune system. Can you share some of them with us?
I can. I mean, this is the season, right? And I normally don't succumb to colds and coughs, but I've been doing a ton of travel and running a little ragged for my superwoman self. But anyhow, yeah, there's so many great things. I think as we get, first of all, the majority of your immunity is in your gut, so making sure you're getting enough probiotics and getting in again the right foods for you. Watching sugar is probably rule number one. Rule number two is supplementing through the winter time on vitamin D, because vitamin D helps the immune system. And then my other favorite is astragalus. Astragalus is an immune booster as well. It's a natural antiviral and antibacterial that can help fight off colds and flu. And the minute you start feeling bad, it's a great idea to take that up to 3 times a day. And lastly, getting into mushrooms lately. So turkey tail is a great mushroom with lots of immune boosting properties as well. And taking that daily can help you to keep your immune system primed.
Oh, I like that you mentioned turkey tail, because there was a big study, I believe Bastyr University did it, where they saw that turkey tail had really positive effects when fighting cancer.
Yes, and I use it in some of my cancer protocols too. But yes, absolutely.
What are some protocols that we can implement to prevent cancer? What are the main things you tell your patients to do to prevent cancer?
I mean, I think it's again safeguarding against inflammation. I think that's the key thing, understanding where you are in that journey or in that word, understanding what you need to do to stay on an anti-inflammatory, I mean, to keep inflammation away from your body. I think that's the number one thing. And then for women, I would add they really need to watch the amount of, and they really need to watch their hormones and what's happening with their hormones. So understanding hormone metabolism and how their hormones break down and all that other good stuff, I think is important.
So for those who don't know what an anti-inflammatory diet is, or what a pro-inflammatory diet is. Can you let the listener know?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're talking about is a diet where we minimize inflammation. Inflammation is the cycle of the body sort of reacting upon itself. So, with that, what we're thinking is really cutting down on foods that we know trigger inflammation historically. So, again, we mentioned gluten, dairy, sugar, high meat diets. Those are all considered pro inflammatory diets. So scaling back on those and also getting in the healthy fats like the omega-3 fats, we know reverses inflammation and has been shown to reverse a lot of different autoimmune or chronic diseases in the process.
Great. And then like avoiding things like junk food and chemicals
Processed
and
food
processed food
and
and
things like,
fried food would all
yep,
be mandatory.
correct, definitely.
Wonderful. Well, it's been wonderful having you on the show. You're definitely a wealth of knowledge. Um, I would love to have you back anytime in the future,
Thank you.
especially as you keep launching more books. This is so cool. I love your angle for empowering women and making change in the world. Because if you start with health, like I spent all of October going from one cold to another because my son brought a bunch of germs home from daycare, and I had a lot of time to do a lot of reflection and learning. And what I really got was that we have to be as vigilant as I am around health. I have to be more vigilant. And when we don't have our health, we can't make changes in the world. We can't, when we're sitting on our couch or lying in bed,
Nope,
there's not much
nope.
empowering the world that we're doing. So I love that you're wanting to change the world through helping women get their health back. Because when we are fully awesome around our health, then there's no stopping us.
You got it. You get my message. I love it. Thank you. I really truly believe it, and I'm hoping this book will impact and empower women everywhere.
Awesome, and I know it will. Now tell us about your website and how we can get your book. So it's drtaz.com, and of course the link to everything that Dr. Taz does will be in the show notes of today's podcast. What should we know about your website? You've got a bunch of books, you have a shop, you also have a podcast. Tell us about what we should do when we go to your website.
Definitely. So, I mean, there's so many different ways to connect with me, and I welcome them all. The website, as you mentioned, is drtaz.com. When you hit the website, right now we are featuring the book and the quiz in the book, so feel free to take it and learn more about the book there. You can also download my podcast on iTunes. It's just called The Dr. Taz Show. And then you can find me on social on @DrTazMD on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
Very cool. I'd love for you to wrap up today's show by challenging our listeners. Is there a health challenge that you could give them for them to do now and for the next 7 days to see an improvement in their life?
Yes, I can give them here's a mini challenge. So for the next 7 days, take out all sugar and then stop eating after 6 o'clock. And let's see if you notice changes in your energy, your weight, your skin, your hair, and even brain fog.
I love it. It's such a great challenge. I found out that I was allergic to cane sugar. And when I did the IgG test, so my husband too, so funny. So we took cane sugar completely out of our life, and I mean we weren't like looking to like add beet sugar or anything, and we just so we had to take all sugar out, and we felt like unbelievable, like our energy first thing in the morning, our bowel movements. I mean, it affected everything. It was really cool how it's just something like so small, and it's not like we were eating a lot of sugar anyway, but it's a hidden ingredient in so many things, in salad dressings, in pasta sauce, in peanut butters and nut butters. I had to return an almond butter the other day because cane sugar was one of the ingredients, and it's just really, sugar is hidden in everything. We have to be really vigilant when finding no sugar products. And so I love your challenge because even a small amount of sugar can cause inflammation. And when we cut out that small amount of sugar in our life, we saw a huge shift. So that's
Yep,
really cool. Thank you for that mini challenge. Awesome. Well, Dr. Taz, has been fantastic having you on the show. Please come back anytime you have something to teach and promote in the future. We definitely look
definitely.
forward to hearing back from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate it.
Enjoy what you heard today on your episode of the Learn to Health podcast. Did something move you, inspire you? Did you get great information that's going to change your life? Awesome. That's exactly what I'm here to do, is to help you gain your health back. Please turn around and share this. If this is something that's helped you in any way, share this with those you love. Love the Learn True Health podcast and want to support us? Awesome. You can go to takeyoursupplements.com and you could support us that way. You'll get access to amazing supplements that are just really great quality for a great price. And there'll be someone on the other end of the line to help you pick out your supplements that are right for you. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Or join our membership, learntruehealth.com/join. That's another great way to support our podcast, support our movement, and you'll be supporting yourself. Gain more information, wonderful videos, wonderful trainings, and you'll also be able to share those with those you love as well. So go to learntruehealth.com/join. Want something fun for free? Go to learntruehealth.com, and right there on the front page, you'll see where you can get our free cookbook. I spent a lot of time making it and it was so much fun. It's really delicious, healthy recipes. And you can also get our 7-day doctor course. Right there, it's 7 days of naturopathic videos sent right to your inbox, and you can learn from top naturopaths on how to gain health naturally. So that's takeyoursupplements.com for wonderful supplements. learntruehealth.com/join to join our awesome membership, which is only open for a limited time. You can get our free healthy cookbook, and you can also get for free 7 days of wonderful naturopathic videos sent to you. Just go to learntruehealth.com and you'll see it right there on the front page. Thank you so much for being a listener, and thank you for sharing and helping others. Let's spread this information and turn this ripple into a tidal wave.